Hi, the internet. I hope I get at least 10 figures, 10 views, double figures on this video, and I hope you enjoy it if possible. It's not a very nice subject really, and it's something that I think has certainly played on my mind over the last 6 months, looking at the global conflagrations, or let's call it let's call a spade, the genocide in Gaza, and also the other unrest and disputes and terrible things going on around the world. If you go on AI, like I've got Gemini Pro, if you look at Ministry of Defence press releases, they release them like a couple of times a week. They tell you about things going on with like the Ruskies in British waters, and some of it's been reported in the mainstream media and the legacy media. Some of it's been sort of documented by officials who have issued sort of warnings that we've heard before, like you make sure you've got 72 hours worth of food and like be prepared to think about it. Like Rishi Sunak, lost a lot of friends as a result of talking about conscription, which is very unpopular, as most people know. I just happen to be wearing a camo top today, but that's not because I'm some sort of weaponry or military obsessed freak. It's just because it's thermal underwear. I've got the bottoms to go with it as well. I've written fuck all, but I've got an article, and it addresses quite a stark kind of reality that I don't think is getting enough coverage. And you might remember a few months ago, Iran, who haven't invaded anyone since about the 1800s, although they practice Sharia law, which I don't agree with for obvious reasons, attacked Israel. And Israel have got a brilliant defence system. Not that I am sort of pro or anti Israel being attacked in this video. I'm not it's revolting to be impartial, but I don't know what they were trying to do, and ultimately I don't think lots of people getting blown up by rockets or drones or whatever is ever a good thing. It's fucking shit. So I don't really want to comment on that, but it was pretty impressive what they did. There was 500 aerial targets, and they got 497 or something. A few of them hit an airfield. We've got nothing like that in this country, right? The London Stock Exchange and the British military and Britain as a diplomatic entity is really important, right? It just boggles me. I know we're in a lot of debt, and I know that we've got limited finances, and it says that in this document, and it's kind of like driving a car, buying a car without any seatbelts. It's just, in this day and age, I think it's just really ridiculous that as a global superpower, I guess, like Great Britain and the army, we don't have anything except for blast phase detection, or you'll read the CND document. There's nothing we can do about it, basically, which is fucking mental, because we're letting the banks create all the money that they want as debt-based currency, charging the government interest for it, and the Russians spend 40% of their GDP on defense, and that's why they've got these absolutely mortifying instruments of death surrounding our nation at the moment, which isn't really in the papers very much at all. If you just go on AI every day and just ask for what's been released in M.A.D press releases, the massive chasm between what's being made aware to the public and what they just don't cover. And I don't think that's the fault of the Daily Mail or the Times or the fucking the Sun or the BBC. I think it's just kind of an endemic response to a kind of a reduction in sensationalist content, and like I always say, what's interesting to the public isn't always in the public interest. Let's have a look at this document, because I can't do this for too late. It's almost 9 o'clock. Here's the article. If you're surprised or worried about this amendment, write to your MP, because I think it's time we, fucking levelled up in it. Sitting Ducks, the terrifying truth about Britain's nuclear nakedness, by insert Brodie McLeod's name and my unemployed status and unregulated affiliation with any fraternity, cult, gang, religion, or anything else. I'm just a man, not very successful or very good one. Used to be quite a nice one, but there we are. London, picture this, it's 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. A radar station in Flyingdales detects a heat bloom rising over the Ural Mountains. Minutes later, it confirms the unthinkable. An intercontinental ballistic missile, ICBM, is arcing through the exosphere, destined for London. The Prime Minister has woken the sirens well, and then we die. Contrary to the Hollywood blockbuster fantasy of lasers blasting warheads in the sky or a secret iron dome springing into action, the United Kingdom possesses zero capability to intercept an incoming ICBM. No orbital munitions like shit in space, no directed energy weapons, no surface-to-air missiles capable of reaching the necessary altitude. So the M.A.D has kind of gambled with the lives of all of us in Britain, that's 67 million people, on a single chilling roll of the dice that basically no one's crazy enough to shoot first. It's called Mutually Assured Destruction, M.A.D, which is as disgustingly ironic as it is poetic. The anatomy of Armageddon, what are we talking about? So to understand the threat, you must first understand that an ICBM is not a missile in the way that you might imagine, like a Top Gun dogfight. It's effectively a space rocket. What happens when an ICBM launches? It doesn't fly like to a target, it's thrown at it. So first of all, you've got the boost phase, right? These massive, huge rocket motors blast the weapon out of the atmosphere and into the silence of space, often reaching altitudes higher than like the ISS, the International Space Station. Once they're in space, the post-boost vehicle detaches. It's then got thrusters to spin and release its passengers, which are like the weapons. Modern missiles are what they call MIRVs, like multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles. So one missile can split into 10 separate warheads, each hitting a different city. It's really dark. These warheads don't glide, they just fall, and the gravity drags them back to the Earth at speeds at Mach 20. That's 20 times the speed of sound, very quick, at 15,000 miles an hour. And that speed, they can cross the Atlantic in minutes. They're essentially man-made meteors. The numbers, according to the Federation of American Scientists and others, is about 12,121 nuclear warheads. Russia's got over 5,000. China's got like 500. The one that they did in Hiroshima in 1945 was 15 kilotons. These ones are 300 to 800 kilotons, and some are megatons. If a single 800 kiloton, which is like on the small conservative range, the warhead detonated over Westminster, it would vaporise everything within like a 1 mile radius instantly. The thermal pulse would cause really bad burns, horrible consequences as far out as like the outskirts of London. The blast would have a level residential, would like crush buildings for miles and miles, and that's just one warhead, a small one. Like a typical Russian ICBM carries like 6 to 10 of those. So imagine that destruction on a multiple scale. It's fucking dark as fuck. The 5 who could end us. So I asked in my inquiries, I asked it to sort of summarise in this canvas, who is it that has these things? Disregarding the United States, because I don't think they're gonna attack us, and the NATO allies like France, there are 5 foreign militaries that are not overtly affiliated with Britain that possess the nuclear armed ICBMs capable turning the UK into a radioactive glass car park. Russia is the obvious titan. They possess the world's largest inventory, capable of striking anywhere on Earth with multiple independent warheads. And you've got China. They've got like range that will exceed 12,000 kilometers, which is pretty fucking far, easily covering anywhere in the UK. North Korea, again, has demonstrated the range to hit London, and they have no treaty or alliance that binds with the West at all. They're completely independent. India is a part of the Commonwealth, but not a military ally. Bit weird. They reckon they can only get about 8,000 K out of theirs, which places them within striking distance, but they're currently friendly. In the game of nuclear chess, capability matters more than intent. We've got Israel, bit of a wild card. Their foreign policy is fucking really bad. We're on their side, sort of, but we did rule that it was apartheid, their occupation of Gaza, so things, can change quickly. So Israel maintains a policy of nuclear ambiguity, but global intelligence universally agrees that they possess the Jericho 3 missile that will do 12,000 kilometers. So they could attack us if we fell out with them. They probably won't, but they might do. The naked truth, why we're defensive. So if one of these nations launched, British military would be a spectator. So there's no orbital shield. The UK hasn't got a space-based interceptor like other countries do. There's lasers that shoot them down. There's 50 kilowatt science project designed to burn drones, and does, but not something going 20 times the speed of sound with a nuclear warhead, and a heat shield to prevent it, from re-entry, gets through warm. There's no missile shield. The Royal Navy's Type 45 destroyers are getting an upgrade to shoot down ballistic missiles, but only short range, small ones. They can't still do anything about ICBMs that are doing 15,000 miles an hour. Then you've got this, inane, that was my prompt, lunacy of mutually assured destruction. So why is M.A.D, that's one of the most important national infrastructures on Earth, of our existence, so ineffably vulnerable? The official answer is stability and instability. Paradox. Military strategists argue that defence creates war. If the UK built a perfect shield, Russia would feel threatened because then their nukes would be useless and would simply build more missiles to overwhelm it. It just kind of stands to reason, But the M.A.D's policy is like a suicide pact, mutually assured destruction. The logic is that we don't need a shield because we have a sword, and if they kill us, we'll fire from our submarines and kill them back, which is just doubling the problem. It's not a solution. It's a fucking load of bollocks. And anyone who thinks that, that's not mental, it kind of logically makes sense if you're playing a game of, as it described, nuclear chess. But I don't know. I think it's fucking ludicrous. But it's a logic that works perfectly right up until the moment that it doesn't. It assumes every foreign leader is a rational actor who fears death and offers zero protection against an accidental launch. Rogue commander or a leader doesn't care if its own people get in trouble. The dome fantasy. Can we afford to survive? So can we build a shield like they've got in America and Israel? Technically, yes, it says it. We could purchase the equivalent of the American ground-based mid-course defence, GMD system. Here's the brutal financial reality the government won't say out loud. So the one they got in the United States cost about 50 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, but in government terms, that's not that much, especially given its context. So they still only guarantee protection against a limited attack, like one from North Korea, not a full Russian saturation strike. The entire UK defence budget is 50 to 60 billion. So to build a British dome, would cost probably 100 billion plus up front, plus billions of annual maintenance. Where would the money come from? We haven't got Gordon Brown sold off all our gold before it went 10 times in price. Thanks for that, mate. they'd have to take the cuts from the NHS, basically, to fund a missile shield. And the UK would essentially have to dismantle the National Health Service, abolish state pension or double income tax. So whatever they do, they're too skint, you know. There's a conclusion that says, talks about the price of apathy. M.A.D has done the maths and decided that your safety is too expensive. They've calculated that it's cheaper to threaten post-mortem revenge strike than it is to keep you alive. We're living under a nuclear sword of Damocles, protected by only a promise that the other guy loves his children as much as we love ours. In a world of increasing extremism, volatility, it's not a strategy, it's a wish. Till the public demands that national defence actually includes defence, we're going to remain quite literally sitting ducks.